Hello, and welcome to The Myth Within. I'm Dr. Tom, and I'm very grateful that you joined me here today. Today, we're going to read a fairy story from the Brothers Grimm. It's entitled Old Sultan. The Brothers Grimm's tales have somewhat of a special meaning for me, especially as it relates to the dynamics that drive psyche and the lessons that we learn from the simplicity of children's stories. This story today, Old Sultan, is about a dog and his owner, and the dog has found himself in a little bit of dire straits today. And as we go into the story, I think you'll see sort of the morals that come from these stories that we do tell our children. And so I really hope you enjoy. So let us begin with Old Sultan by the Brothers Grimm. A shepherd had a faithful dog called Sultan, who was grown very old and had lost all his teeth. And one day, when the shepherd and his wife were standing together before the house, the shepherd said, "I will shoot Old Sultan tomorrow morning, for he is no use now." But his wife said, "Pray, let the poor faithful creature live. He has served us well a great many years, and we ought to give him a livelihood for the rest of his days. But what can he do with him?" said he has not a tooth in his head, and the thieves don't care for him at all. To be sure, he has served us, but then he did it to earn his livelihood. Tomorrow shall be his last day. Depend on it. Poor Sultan, who was lying close by them, heard all that the shepherd and his wife said to one another, and was very much frightened to think tomorrow would be his last day. So in the evening he went to his good friend the wolf, who lived in the wood, and told him of all his sorrows and how his master meant to kill him in the morning. "Make yourself easy," said the wolf. "I will give you some good advice. Your master, you know, goes out every morning very early with his wife into the field, and they take their little child with them and lay it down behind the hedge in the shade while they are at work. Now do you lie down close by the child and pretend to be watching it, and I will come out of the wood and run away with it. You must run after me as fast as you can, and I will let it drop. Then you may carry it back, and they will think you have saved their child, and will be so thankful to you that they will take care of you for as long as you live." The dog liked this plan very well, and accordingly, so it was managed. The wolf ran with the child a little way. The shepherd and his wife screamed out, but Sultan soon overtook him and carried the poor little thing back to his master and mistress. Then the shepherd patted him on the head and said, "Old Sultan has saved our child from the wolf, and therefore he shall live and be well taken care of, and have plenty to eat. Wife, go home and give him a good dinner, and let him have my old cushion to sleep on as long as he lives." So from this time forward, Sultan had all that he could wish for. In the first part of the story, we see a dog who has been very dependent and loving towards his owners, the master and the mistress of the house. Old Sultan, he served them faithfully, and he served them well throughout his life. And now he finds himself in a bit of dire straits as he's aging, because his teeth, that element that allows him to show some degree of ferocity to protect them amongst thieves and wolves of the environment, are now gone. And so the master here is really removed from the honor that the animal provided him, and looks to eliminate the dog after he had served his life in service to him. Now, we see this often in society, that we tend to begin to give up on the old. We sort of push them away into whether it be rest homes or places that are out of sight and out of mind. And really, what this story begins to remind us of is there's a sense of honor and there's a sense of duty from generations past that really work with us to help foster the livelihood that we're able to obtain. And so, if it wasn't for the generations prior, we wouldn't have the capacity to build upon the foundations that they've laid forward. Now, some of these foundations may have been negative, other foundations may have been positive, but there's a natural degree of progression that you can't build the walls of a house until you have a firm foundation present. You could build a house on a beach, but it will be washed away with the first wave unless the foundation is sturdy enough to keep it grounded to where it's at. And so, what we see here is a reminder that we need to honor the service of what has occurred before. And for Old Sultan, he's served his life well for his master and mistress, and he now fears that he's going to be eliminated in their need to assure that the protection and the sanctity of their family continues to remain intact, even though the dog can't protect them in the same way that he did before. And so this moves us into where there's a deal present. And really, there always is a deal present in the fairy stories. This is an aspect of psyche's capacity to grow. And in order to grow, a deal must be made. And so for Sultan's case, he makes a deal with the wolf, the shadow element of the story. Now, the shadow really is that dark material that could lead into enlightenment, because we can't have a shadow without some degree of light shining down. And Sultan makes a deal with the wolf, who encourages him to lie down next to the couple's child, and he will steal the child in order that Sultan could become a hero again in his owner's eyes. Now, this is an element where we all have to begin to address this as we age. We have to continually reignite that hero within to find new ways to bring use and livelihood to our experience. As we age, we have the benefit of wisdom, and Sultan has this for sure. He knows that in order to create the means from which he will be seen in good light by his owner, he has to make a deal with the shadow. His light cannot come without the expense of a shadow, and the wolf in this case is that entity. It is that shadow. And he's the one who takes the baby, which allows Sultan to be seen in a new light, that maybe the dog is still of good use. What shadows lurk behind the alley? What shadows lurk in the environment we move towards every day? It's in these places that we begin to find a lesson. Now, the wife and the farmer, they put their child behind a hedge as they go to work. How often do we see this happen, where parents will put their children behind them so that they could go to work, so that they could tend to the light that they see fit for them to obtain? Well, it's in this place that the dark elements also lie. And so as we begin to take a look at what it is within the light that we seek, we also see the shadow elements, how it could bring us to a realization that we have to honor the duties and the responsibilities that we have. And this is really the moral of this aspect of the story, that Sultan has served his master well. He was dutiful to him. He served him within his livelihood to protect the family. But when his use becomes, when he is no longer of use to them, the master wants to get rid of him without any repercussions. The wife, in her nurturing aspect, pleads with him to give him And there's a sense of nurturing there that needs to be honored as we look at the generational value of how wisdom is earned through our life experience, not necessarily learned. And Sultan represents this sage in essence when he's able to turn to the wolf and devise a plan with the wolf to be seen in new light. It's from this place that Sultan is then again brought back to the dinner table. The farmer says, "Wife, go home and give him a good dinner and let him have my old cushion to sleep on as long as he lives." There's an element of transition here that when we begin to find new use with the wisdom that emerges through the life cycle, that it again ignites our livelihood to include different passions that may not be quite the same as when we were younger. But that's the element of the fairy story. These things have different meanings to us throughout our life cycle. Today we looked at the first part of Old Sultan. Old Sultan was a dog who faithfully served his master and mistress, even in times when the master wanted to give up on him. There's something beautiful about a sense of duty like that. There's something beautiful about the wisdom that is shared when we begin to find new meaning in each developmental cycle we undertake. This is part of our realization process. We're coming into who we are. I look forward to your responses, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I'm happy to explore them within the context of this podcast. And I really want to thank you for joining me here today, and as always, I wish you namaste, my friends. May blessings find you on your journey to advance confidently in the direction of your dreams. Thank you for joining me.